Hi there, Sean Kevlin here with another I Executive Exchange. We have another member to feature today from Crawford and Company, Pat Van Bakel. He's the Chief Commercial and Strategy Officer. Pat, welcome.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. So we're going to talk about your sustainability survey that I understand you put out annually now. What's been the motivation of Crawford to conduct this survey and write the report?
Yeah, I think probably no surprise to you, Sean, that the conversations around sustainability and kind of related topics of climate change, resiliency, have been picking up with some frequency over the last number of years. Certainly with our discussions with clients and the markets in which we operate as a global organization. One of the things that we like to do is make sure that we're creating some value for our customers and making sure that they understand kind of how the industry is feeling about certain topics. So this was one that we chose to kind of index on because we were kind of feeling some shifts in sentiment. We were getting, as you can imagine, there's plenty of opinions and activity around this, but I would describe it as being on a spectrum. So where organizations are, or even where markets are, is on a spectrum, and so just trying to get a baseline of where they are today and where we might be headed in the future.
Yeah, it is. It's different, and you all being a global company know how people talk about things are different depending on where they are. And here in the U.S., we focus a lot of that discussion in and around climate risk on the resilience aspect of it. But what in your mind was a notable finding from this year's survey?
I'd say there were maybe a handful of notable findings. One, and probably no real surprise in any of it. Most organizations have referenced sustainability or resiliency in their corporate strategy. That was kind of one finding. It did have some prominence at the senior executive and board, the discourse between management and the board for most organizations. Secondly, we found, not surprisingly, that sustainability matters to our employees. The people that work for our organizations want to work for organizations that have a value system that aligns with theirs. And so a lot of energy comes from employees wanting to kind of connect with organizations that have a good social conscience around these issues. And obviously customers are also keenly interested in what organizations are doing, how we as an industry can help them in whatever particular industry or even in the kind of homeowner space to address these issues as well. The other thing that was notable is that we have seen, I would say, a bit of a dichotomy over the last 2 or 3 years between the U.S. and the rest of the world in the way that they think about these issues.
Well, let's dive in on that part of it, actually, because that was something I was interested in. Is what is and do you see as kind of the priorities emerging in the U.S.?
Well, first I'll contrast them with the rest of the world. So I would say that when I say the rest of the world, it's largely the sentiment coming out of the UK and Euro region. There we definitely have a higher sense of social commitment, if you will, around sustainability. It's the right thing to do concept, and driving towards enterprise level commitments that are measurable, and they're actually doing a lot of work around bringing them to life inside of organizations, tracking measures. And measuring their progress and reporting on it. Some because they're required to by regulation, others because they just believe it's the right thing to do. Contrast that with the U.S. I would say the U.S. looks at this as a much more commercial, from a much more commercial perspective. So it's more, the discussion in the U.S. tends to be more around product, and how we can help customers through product to address the issues of resiliency particularly, less emphasis, I would say, on sustainability. And it's around, endorsements for Build Back Better, for things that, they can, take into the market as a commercial product and collect revenue for. So there's just a different there's a business, much more business focused business sense to it in the U.S. market than what we would see outside of the U.S.
Interesting. So what do you see for the insurance industry in particular? How are there ways that you foresee the industry being able to work together more to actually get towards that change that's necessary for sustainability and resilience?
Yeah, I know this isn't on your agenda. We've certainly engaged with III in the past on this particular topic. I think the more that we can collaborate at an industry level and converge on some best practices, then I think we're going to create a lot more benefit for the effort that we put in. My advice would be practical. So think about where are the things that we can do, that are going to drive some impact, and then build from there. When you think about the property line of business, particularly, and maybe to some extent in the auto and trucking line of businesses as well, you can see some opportunities to build product in and to kind of make sure that the things that we're doing are at least not detrimental to the long term ambitions, but and supportive of where we want to go. But my advice would be find the energy, follow what I would describe as the demand pull, rather than trying to create demand, and I think we'll be a lot more successful.
That's great. So Pat, this is the part of the exchange where you get to ask me a question. What do you have?
Well, I think I'm interested for sure in what you have seen from the III perspective. I know that you guys are in the middle of a lot of these conversations at an industry level, and whether you're noticing any particular shift or evolution of the discussion over the last few years. And if you think about a spectrum, and from on one end of the spectrum being talk, so a lot of talk, there's a lot of discussion or conversations happening, which is not necessarily a bad thing, to the other end of the spectrum being action oriented. Where would you say we are on the spectrum, and do you feel we're moving in any particular direction on that spectrum?
It's actually a great question, and honestly, it's very much tied to something that we have our hands in right now, and I'll even say our hands full of right now, because we have been working on just what you're talking about, Pat, at III, which is there's been a lot of research, there's been a lot of discussion. I think we are at III have done research with the likes of the National Institute of Building Sciences. We've put together a resilience roadmap. And I think from our perspective, now we need to actually take action, and we need to get on the ground. And that is what we have been working on for the last 2 years. And in fact, and I know, and Crawford has been part of our work and discussions on this, where we are looking at creating a sustainability program in the city of Dallas that will utilize such tools as a resiliency score, a property-based resiliency score that can help then determine the need of an individual and what they need to do to make their dwelling. It's mostly about the home in this first case, and how can they make their home more resilient. And from that score, they're then going to be able to tap into a revolving loan and grant fund that allow them to get financial means to make those changes. And what we're seeing in other programs like this is going to be a privately funded program, but there are some government ones that are out there, in particular in the state of Alabama, that have been very successful in helping, for example, put on fortified roofs in wind-prone regions of the state. And what they found in those areas is that the home values have started going up, and the prices of insurance have started going down. And that has been interesting, and it's created a bit of a movement to incentivize not just the person who owns the home, but a contractor, as Crawford well knows, needs to get certified to put an IBHS fortified roof on. It's incentivizing the realty community to know whether or not there's a fortified roof on the house as they're selling it, because it improves the price. And so all of these elements are beginning to spin that kind of economic flywheel to incentivize people to take action. I think that's the biggest challenge that we've seen that needs to happen in order to truly create the behavioral changes we need, that we know in insurance and risk management but oftentimes the rest of the community needs help in understanding more. So that's where we're seeing a big shift, is from not just talking about this being important, but actually taking action. And we're very fortunate to have Crawford and others. And I have just seen, so to your point about, the interest and the motivation has been more than I could have imagined. We are, like I said, have our hands full right now, setting up a separate legal entity, getting all the players together. We've got people ready and lined up to be financial and make financial commitments. So we're excited about this, and I think taking that to action is really what's going to make the most impact. So everybody knows that a good idea is just as good as you can implement it, and so that's what we're focused on doing. And I think the industry is ready to start doing it as well.
I think that's fantastic. If you think about, I mean, there's the proof cases. If you look at aerial images in recent years of either hurricane struck areas, wildfire areas, where you can see the benefit of putting resiliency into the infrastructure, that
Right.
there's no other way to explain how one structure can look relatively unscathed and one right next door to it is flattened or burned to the ground, depending on the peril. And those are excellent, I think, images that bring to life the value of the stuff we're talking about.
Absolutely, Pat. It's much needed. It's starting to happen. I mean, we're even seeing the building of sustainable, resilient neighborhoods in California from wildfire. So we're starting a movement, and I hope it just starts moving a little more quickly, because we need it to. But Pat, I very much appreciate your time and your perspective and getting a better understanding of your sustainability survey. So thank you very much for your time here today.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me.